welcome into another episode of No Huddle Rodeo, the NFR preview editions. Roll on. They will continue to roll on every Tuesday. Also on Wednesdays, we have Inside Rodeos. Thursdays, we help you out with your fantasy team with fantasy rodeo picks. But today, we are breaking down the steer wrestlers. We are breaking down the field in the National Finals Rodeo in the Big Man's event. We are doing so, as always, from the Fort Worth Stockyards. And as always, we are presented to you by Justin Boots and Runyon's Fine Furniture. Before we get into any of these guys, let's get into all of the guys in the National Finals Rodeo in the steer wrestling this year. Quick run through 1 through 15 in the field. Will Lummus, number 1. He's got 3 reserve world titles in the last 4 years. Right behind him, Jesse Brown, a top 10 machine. He's number 2. Justin Shaffer, the Governor's Cup champion, is number 3. Rowdy Parrott had a terrific summer. He's number 4. Tucker Allen, Rodeo Houston champion, is number 5. The reigning world champion, JD Struxness, number 6. NFR stalwart Stetson Jorgensen, number 7. The 5-time world champion, Tyler Waguespack, number 8. Veteran of a dozen NFRs, Dakota Eldridge, is number 9. Kyle Irwin, the 2022 NFR average champion, number 10. Calgary Stampede champion, again, Scott Gentner. He keeps trying to retire. He is number 11. He's back in the finals. One of our young guns, Bridger Anderson, is number 12. Chance Howard making his first appearance. He's number 13. 2019 world champion Ty Erickson is number 14. And number 15, Gavin Soilo, one of the last guys to get into the field. The last guy to get into the field this year. So those are your top 15. But let's go all the way back to the very top, to number 1. That is where we are going to start today's preview, of course. That is Will Lummus. And Will Lummus, if you've been following rodeo closely, if you've been following steer wrestling closely, you know that Will Lummus has gotten oh so close many, many times. 3 reserve world titles in the last 4 years, but not only that, 2 of those years really controlled his destiny entering round 10. Well, what's different this year is that he enters the NFR number 1, something he has not done in those previous 3 reserve world title years. Also on his side, leads the PRCA in average time, 5.41 seconds on average, way ahead of the rest of the field, more than 4/10 ahead of the next closest cowboy. He also has 31 times a 4 flat or faster this year. The next closest is Jesse Brown at 21. Of the top 15 of every bulldogger in the world, only 3 guys have at least half the number that Will Lummus has. He has 31. Most everyone else this year has below 15. And something else with Will Lummus, with every event, but specifically with Will Lummus, because I mentioned those round 10 struggles lately, when all the chips are down. So look at how things finish, not how they start. Because last year, Will Lummus won rounds 1 and 3. And if he does that this year, he'll have a big lead. But last year, he did the exact same thing, and he took control of the race only to not finish it. So we'll monitor his start this year, but more important will be what kind of position he's in rounds 8, 9, and 10, and can he come through in rounds 8, 9, and 10 to win that first gold buckle. Because right behind him is Jesse Brown, who's a phenomenal athlete, who if Will Lummus is the best steer wrestler going, who's never won a gold buckle, maybe the best steer wrestler ever at this point who's never won a gold buckle, Jesse Brown is right up there with him. 4 straight top 6 finishes heading into this year. Number 2 in the world. And he's just awesome on these quick setups. He won Fort Worth this year. He won San Angelo this year. And then when you get to the National Finals Rodeo, he's got a great mix of speed and consistency. Because in 2024, he won 2 rounds at the NFR. In 2023, he was second in the average at the NFR. And I mentioned those setups and that momentum. All 4 of his runs at this year's Governor's Cup, 4.3 seconds or faster. won it in 2023, made the finals in 2024. You've heard me say it for these timed events. The setup in Sioux Falls, very similar to that of the one in the Thomas and Mack. However, all of that being said about number one and number two, the last 2 seasons in the steer wrestling, the world champion has not come from the top 2 in the world standings. JD Struxness last year, $52,000 back, came from number 5 to win his first career gold buckle. Tyler Waguespack in 2023, $47,000 down, ends up winning that gold buckle. This year from about 47, if you say about $50,000, Jesse Brown in that mix, Justin Shaffer, Rowdy, Parrott, and Tucker Allen. But the guys I want to talk about the most are the guys mentioned. Number 6, JD Struxness, and number 8, Tyler Waguespack. Because obviously they have come from behind before to win world titles. They have recently come from behind before to win world titles. Again, Struxness from 52,000 down last year. Waguespack 47,000 down in 2023. They are both within striking distance to do it again. JD Struxness, $138,000, number 6 in the world. And what is his case to repeat as the world champion? Well, last year, every qualified time he had at the NFR was 4.5 seconds or faster. 7 of them were 4 flat or faster. And this guy has caught 9 of 10 each of the last 3 years at the national finals. And he is averaging 4.6 seconds on those runs. And there is no reason to believe that is going to change. Because JD Struxness caught 90% of his steers throughout the regular season this year. In fact, in the last 3 seasons, there have only been 2 instances of a steer wrestler catching at least 90%, getting a qualified time on at least 90% of their runs. Both of them were JD Struxness. And as mentioned, he does not get sped up. He does not get overwhelmed by the national finals rodeo. As for Tyler Waguespack, 2022 and 2023, the last 2 years he was healthy, he won the world title. 2024, he missed over a month, still finished the regular season number 14, still moved up 5 spots at the NFR. This is a guy who owns the record at the NFR with $213,348. And he broke his own record of about $213,200 to do that. So he has won over 200 grand at the NFR multiple times. So Struxness' case is that he makes 9 runs of over 4.5 or better again and wins that way. Waguespack's case is the fact that he has won over $200,000 at the NFR multiple times in his career. And if he were to do that, let's say he wins exactly $200,000, he would force Will Lummus to win about $140,000. That would put the total at $335,000 as the mark to beat, which I believe would be the winningest steer wrestling season of all time. Because remember last year, JD Struxness, $309,000. So something to watch as we get closer, as we look at the standings and those projected standings that bake in the average when we get to round 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's who can get over $300,000, because that's about what it's going to take. And Will Lummus being at $195,000 obviously has the best chance of doing that, but he's the one who can force everyone to go get him and push it to needing 310, 320, 330. Well, if that number gets to you need $330,000 to win the world title, Tyler Waguespack is a guy who can come from the back of the pack, or the middle of the pack, I should say, and make that happen. And so those are guys to keep an eye on in addition to number 1 and number 2. And now I just want to go through some stats, flash up the top 10 on there, and look at what we are looking at for the full regular season. And first, I want to show that qualified time percentage. Because you see JD Struxness, 91.4%. The best we have seen in the last 3 seasons. But you also see Brown up there at 82.7. Waguespack, who I mentioned, at 80%. If he can catch all 10 and average 4.6, 4.7, Waguespack that is, he's got a good chance, as we just talked about. But Struxness just blows everyone out of the water in that stat. He's just more consistent than anyone else. And that's really what won him that gold buckle last year. But then you go to average time. And you've got Will Lummus, 5.41. That is faster than Tyler Waguespack in his world title year. That is faster than JD Struxness last year in that world title year. But then you also see the number 3 man in the world, Justin Shaffer, up there. You see Waguespack, who's number 8 in the world, but number 3 in average time. You also just saw him in qualified time percentage, number 5 in qualified time percentage. So top 5 in both of those key stats. And then you look at something I mentioned earlier when talking about Will Lummus. Runs of 4 flat or faster. He has 31. The next closest, Jesse Brown at 21. Then Rowdy Parrott at 16. So I misspoke earlier because I said 3 guys have at least half. Only 2 do. That is Rowdy Parrott and Jesse Brown. But then you see JD Struxness in that mix again. Stetson Jorgensen, Tyler Waguespack, Dakota Eldridge, Kyle Irwin. Really a veterans alley right there, as you would expect. Guys who know what it takes to be fast enough to win rounds at the NFR. Because 4 flat or faster at the NFR, that will get you a check every single time. And to finish, I want to wrap back around at some of those top guys because you saw Justin Shaffer's name up there. You saw Rowdy Parrott's name up there. Number 3 and number 4 in the world, and both finished really hot. Justin Shaffer won the Governor's Cup. He jumped 5 spots in the last 10 days of the regular season. 3 straight runs of 3.9 or faster to finish the year. And obviously, again, one of those runs was good enough to win the Governor's Cup. And if you can win the Governor's Cup, you can win any NFR go-round because that's exactly what the Governor's Cup finals are, is an NFR go-round. He also made the finals in San Antonio, in Denver, similar setups to the Thomas and Mack. Then there's Rowdy Parrott, who had probably the best summer run of any bulldogger. He finished number 4 in the world. And remember, 5 guys finished within $30,000 of number 1 JD Struxness last year. Rowdy Parrott was one of them. He was terrific at the NFR. He placed in 5 rounds. He won 2 of them. He made $163,000 at the NFR. So again, talk about a guy who, if he repeats that same performance this year, boom, that's $313,000. That's more than the world champion had last year. That's a tough number to go get and go beat. And then to finish it, the Governor's Cup stats for him, all 4 runs, 4 flat or faster the Governor's Cup, including a 3.3. And we've seen him be 3.3, 3.4 at the Thomas and Mack before. So if he strikes with one of those early, he can flip this on his head quickly. And he's a guy of anyone in that top 5 or 6. Lummus and Brown can win rounds. Rowdy Parrott can win rounds at the NFR. So watch out for him, especially starting fast. So that is kind of a glance at probably your 6 biggest world title contenders, as well as some stats, as well as what to keep in mind, target numbers, all of that type of stuff to get you ready for the NFR steer wrestling. As always, the steer wrestling is going to be close. It is going to be topsy-turvy. I can't believe I haven't said that all 15 guys are separated by just $90,000 right now. And so last year down the stretch, we saw 3, 4, 5, 6 different guys have a shot at it. I expect it to be the same. I expect a lot of different projected world champions. And it will be, again, what happens to Will Lummus in those first 2 or 3 rounds? Can he take control and extend his lead? Or will someone level the playing field for those last 6, 7, 8 rounds and make this a really, really competitive race, knowing that in rounds 8, 9, and 10, they've got something that could be hanging around in Lummus's head. We will see. I expect the times to be fast. I expect things to be close. And I expect it to be some really good watching, as it's been for the last 5, 6 years in the steer wrestling at the NFR. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, subscribe, comment, like, tell a friend, spread the word, get as many people to watch it leading up to the finals. Thank you again to Runyons, to Justin Boots, and we will see you tomorrow breaking down some decorated bronc riders in Inside Rodeo, and then also some fantasy rodeo picks in the tie-down roping before a wild card Friday to close the week. That is our full schedule. We will see you all week long and all the way through the NFR here on the US Cowboy YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.